Today I wanted to come on and talk about integrating our humanity and our divinity. So I'm currently in Uluwatu in Bali, Indonesia, and traveled here with my partner, with my girlfriend. And it's been an epic journey. It's been challenging. It's been temples and it's been trash. Bali has that contrast of, you're walking down the streets and there's offerings, but there's also, they make the offerings in these little plates with the incense burning as you're walking down the streets, and temples everywhere, especially Hindu temples. And there's a sacredness, there's a reverence to life. It's very common for people to bring the hands to the heart in the offering of thanks here. And it's also like there's trash as you're walking down the streets. And there's just trash that gets thrown along the sides of the streets because there isn't the same amount of trash collection service available, or it's not the norm. And then the trash gets trash sweepers come early in the morning. And so I'm bringing all this up to talk about the mud and the lotus, right? And how integrating our humanity in and of itself is a spiritual practice, because if we get too far into the spiritual, we can develop a spiritual ego or a spiritual identification, an identification with a spiritual self identity, like a self, like an ego that thinks it's spiritual and speaks in you can develop personality, a supernatural personality traits. And Neville Goddard has this one quote that says, I'm going to paraphrase it, but it's about the imagination as a powerful tool to be cultivated and not just used. So many people use it to escape or as a quick fix, but its proper use is as a tool, right? And as a tool to transform your life. So as we're living in this waking dream, the as within, so without, the realization that you're living in the reflection of the self, that's what the basis of the law of attraction and assumption is, right? Is that your state of consciousness and your vibration determines your point of attraction. What's coming to you is a reflection. And that's what I'm navigating in my relationships, is seeing that okay, if there's something that I'm working on, I'm working on being more stable. So I've been having things coming up, issues in my relationship around stability, around the feminine, the feminine and the masculine. And then that stability, when there's that question, you go out of your frame and you're tuning into other people's energies in the world, mind, you get overwhelmed. That's the empathic thing, tuning into yourself and finding that stability. That's the divine masculine creating the temple of the self. You can hold the space. The masculine holds the container for the feminine energy to flow, right? The flow, creative flow essence, creative essence energy. That's the yang and the yin, and they go together. So you create the frame of the container of which the energy flows, right, within the self. And so that's a whole different aspect that I'm going into around this, is that if you're always trying to be high vibrational, right, you can end up spiritually bypassing your humanity to be in this divinity. And going straight to the source isn't always what people call spiritual bypassing. Sometimes it's good to just shift it, to just go to the source. But if we're resisting the resistance, if we're ignoring our shadow, right? It's not, and then it's not actually integrating it, then it's actually a way of almost like shaming your inner, shaming the shame of what's coming up in your inner shadow, in your inner darkness. And that's what I do, I do shadow work. So when these things are coming, these uncomfortable feelings are coming up, I'm feeling them somatically. What does somatically mean? Soma means the vibrations of feeling in your body. Somatic patterns are feelings that come up in your body repeatedly as emotions, energies in motion. Trauma gets stored in the body. The body is the subconscious. The feelings that come up in your body are patterns of energy. So when there's trauma that gets trapped in the body, we need to feel that to heal our inner child. And as we do that, we release the trapped energy that gets stored. It's storing that energy, and as we feel that, we heal that, and we release that energy, which often gets stored in our lower three chakras, associated with the sex drive, the hunger drive, and the drive for power. So if we ignore those parts of ourselves, guess what? We're going to have power issues. We're going to have relationship problems. We're going to have family dynamic issues. We're going to seek approval outside of ourselves. And pretty much everyone has some level of dynamic of this because of the fact of the age of humanity that we're in, processing our own portion of the collective distortion of the shadow of what Carl Jung called the unconscious mind. And in the law of attraction, you can just say, oh, it's the vibration. And it's like, yeah, but if you're always reaching for the light from my own path, right? And I'm all for tuning into source. It's just there's a whole other side that I've experienced that has been true for me along my journey, is that I'm here to bring the darkness into the light. And that's by bringing the awareness into those aspects of the experience that are the contrast. Contrast could be said to be the same thing as the shadow and the light. And it's just how you work with it. Because that's what I experience, is that when I go into those parts of myself, for example, my dad and my birth dad and my birth mom split up when I was about 6 years old, and my father wasn't in my life for 15 years. I was raised by my stepdad. So what happened right around that time is it created a wound of abandonment. Both my parents were working, they were fighting. Those dynamics get from about the age of when you're until you're 7, get imprinted and then play out. And I've seen mirrors of that same conflicts and feeling abandoned and rejected coming up, guess what? In my relationship, in my intimacy. So those patterns are coming up to be cleared. So if I treat them as a trigger, if I treat them as a response, a reaction in my body showing me something that is coming up into my awareness to be cleared and integrated and loved, instead of ignoring it and just going towards it's all divine spiritual, my relationship gets better. And that's the power of Ho'oponopono, a Hawaiian prayer. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. And going into the feeling and forgiving, right? Forgiveness is forgiving it up to the divine and surrendering and releasing the trapped emotions. Because as long as the emotions are trapped in the body of the subconscious, it's going to repeat that pattern in our life. And that's how we move from the reactionary state into the the conscious state. From the triggered state to the conscious state, from the sleeping state to the waking state. And that is the city of Gene Key 57 and the programming partner 51. Because awakening, right, happens as we transmute the agitation coming up. It's uncomfortable. And in that awakening, in the Siddhic state, there is no ladder. There is no people that are more awake and more asleep. It's like a switch. You're either asleep or you're awake. And it's all in the moment. There's no comparison of how much it is or how much it isn't. It's either you realize you're divinity having a human experience and you're awake, or you're asleep and you don't remember. And there's a liberating quality to that simplicity of am I asleep or am I awake? Because it brings you past the perception of better or worse, or this person's more spiritual or less or whatever. That's all the game of the mind. It's all the game of the ego, because guess what? We're all being human. Here together in the mud of the lotus, and it's beautiful. It's all beautiful, and it's all here now. So be here now and enjoy the ride. We are infinite spiritual beings having a temporary, fleeting moment. The Buddhists call it impermanence. And the word from Sanskrit, anicca, is the only thing there is change. So enjoy the ride. Just like Terence McKenna said, life is a trip, man. We are these holographic, fractal consciousness emanations of one source, God energy, experiencing itself in a dance, which in Sanskrit they call the lila, the play of divine cause and effect. So as you move out of the reactionary state, you see that this is the wheel of samsara, the wheel of the incarnation of the life and the death and the rebirth and the suffering and the and that we can transcend the suffering and we can move into a state of unity consciousness through bringing into union within ourselves what many people are saying, like the masculine and feminine, or the inner polarity within ourself. We heal the inner child, bringing up into the heart center unification with a higher vision for our life. We do manifest from the place of alignment with our dharma, or our life purpose, our spiritual calling in which we came here to fulfill. And inside of that, a spark of creation unlocks within us a seed of divine consciousness, linking us up to the infinite intelligence, providing us with the guidance of everything that we need. So no matter your upbringing, you can change your life, you can change your conditions. And there are stories from everywhere, everything. A billionaire came to a child in Africa. He thought, instead of giving him all the money or what, because he felt his heart go out to him, he taught him the skills of business, and he went to his job, saved up like the equivalent of $1 every day over the period of time, and built a house to feed and his own business out of a cart or something, created a space and a house for his family. And then it's like teach a man to fish. And then he helped raise him up even further once you're like, okay. And so that's what these, like, learning these practices, learning that it's a state of mind, learning that we don't have to be defined by our conditioning, by our upbringing, by the world mind, by race belief, by the limited, scarcity-based, separation-based consciousness of humanity, and we can align ourselves with the higher source consciousness. And that is what, as spiritual visionaries leading the new earth, leading edge of creation, right, we are here to do. We must rise above that to hold a higher vision in the midst of all of this. And I believe that that's why we're here. So if you want peace, Let us find it within. And I get it. It's not easy. Like, it's the quest, you know, like, it's the quest. It's the adventure of awakening. Like, seriously, it's a thing. I've been through many different versions, many different projects, many different forms, many different form versions of myself. And we just find that it's like we're all going through it. I go through it, you know, and it's like, whoa, I'm a way like better aligned version of myself when I do wake up and actually do the practices. Like, I'm just saying, like, people go and they're like, oh, you don't have to, like, life is my meditation. And I'm like, it hasn't really worked like that for me. Like, it is, you can do that. Like, I get, like, you can do, and you can get beyond that, and you're just living it, and like, that's mastery. But I'm like, for me, it's like aligning myself with the daily. Like, that to me is like integrating my humanity with my divinity. Is like, yeah, I forget. Yeah, I get pissed off. Yeah, I fall off the wheel. Yeah, I got to get back on. Yeah, I need to work out. Yeah, you have to practice the law of assumption before I go to sleep. Or I'm going to wake up tomorrow in the same pattern of vibration I went to sleep in. It's work. Let's be real, okay? It's work to be liberated. Funny enough. It's not so easy to be free. Until it is. So we all at the end of the day, like, aren't we all kind of reaching for the same thing? What are you looking for? Who am I? Why am I here? It takes us out of, I'm this name. You're not that name. It's like Ellen Watts said. It's just what people told you you were when you were born. Who am I? Why am I here? Not why am I here in Uluwatu? Why am I here in this moment? On planet Earth, incarnated in this body, breathing with my eyes open. And I know that you're attracted to this video and your eyes are open, so you're awake. Congratulations. Congratulations. It's a feat to be yourself at this time. Isn't that crazy? I have friends and soul fam that they help people be more authentic and vulnerable. And I just have always had a thing around that with coaching of like, it's literally like, it's a transformation for you to be yourself. Like, it's an accomplishment for you to be yourself because of all the fear and all the conditioning and all the programming. And I'm not judging that. It's a beautiful thing. I'm just saying that, like, just in the context of where the world mind, like, look up world mind, race mind. Look up and read people like Joseph Murphy. Look up and read The Power of Myth, Joseph Campbell. Look up and read Neville Goddard. Right? Or listen to their lectures. Take Joseph Murphy, for example. World mind, conditioning. What is that talking about? It's talking about there is an embodied, integrated spiritual consciousness that people have been getting to throughout the ages, throughout all the conditioning, all the separation-based thinking, all the scarcity consciousness, all the programming, all the religious conditioning. And that is the place that sees beyond. And that is the place that is connected to spirit beyond and inclusive of all names, honoring all traditions leading back to the same source, putting it in different words. That they were able to transmute their part of the shadow, regardless of the time, regardless of the conditioning, and come to a greater consciousness, a greater awakening, a greater perspective, and then share that gift with the world. And that is the full circle of the hero's journey, is to share that gift back. And we've all got one. So know that this is a sign you are integrating your humanity with your divinity. And that's the way, man. Good on you. Like, we need that, because it gets you can get a little crazy if you don't. Just go towards the supernatural personality, the spiritual ego. But if you ground it into embodiment, into the present moment, into the compassion, into patience, into love, into loving kindness, as the Buddhists called metta, M-E-T-T-A, loving kindness, practicing that through your actions of good karma or good deeds, and behind the intention to in love. You'll see it ripple in your life. You'll see how it uplifts others just by being you. And that's what we need right now. Like, that's what we need on this planet, to be beacons anchoring in that consciousness, like grid points on this planet. That's what's bringing about this higher frequency, because the planet is going through a shift. And so thank you for being here. It's like, to integrate that, well, that's real. That's the journey. So thank you for tuning into this channeling. I've been feeling like in the channel, let me just talk about the channel here I haven't been on for a while because I just went on this whole journey. And I'm going to be doing more vlogging as well, so I'm kind of shifting and sharing more music as well. You can see the music, listen to my music link below. Just put a single, The Great Mystery. So I'm also a songwriter. I'm gonna have a new meditations coming out, guided meditations coming out, and just want to be more in the raw and also more in the channeling. And just letting it shift, letting it evolve, letting the guidance come through. And also, like, I am available for consultation and for awakening guidance and coaching. So you can reach out to me through the channel. And there's links I got an email, whatever the path of least resistance for you it is to get that manifestation met. So peace, love, and many blessings to you on your journey.